What do we mean when we're talking about near-death experiences? What are they, and how should we approach them as we try to think through what they are?
A near-death experience, sometimes people think, I was hiking in the mountains and my foot slipped and I almost died, so I had a near-death experience. But that's not what that means in the literature. So a near-death experience is a certain kind of out-of-body experience where somebody will say that their soul left their body, and it's an involuntary one. Some people will try to induce this thing, and that gets into astral projection and such. But a near-death experience is where somebody's not looking for it, they come close to death, and they report coming out of their body. So there's what is just, it looks like somebody's dead, a kind of clinical death. And then you have brain death where you're flat EEG. And then later, where the kind of death that nobody comes back from, that's the third kind of death. But somewhere where they're near that point, they might report seeing a bright light, coming out of their body through their head, seeing a bright light, experiencing peace and things like this. So these kinds of experiences, somebody says I died and, I saw my grandma and grandpa, and then I got sucked back into my body and I was in a world of pain and I just saw the light, in the hospital there. We can't really verify that. And so it's hard to really give credence to that kind of story. Certainly they had some kind of an experience, but what that means, I don't know. But there are evidential cases that Gary can certainly talk about that help us see, there might be something to this, because if people can have reports about things that aren't just in their head or just in their private mental state, we can actually check up on those. So Gary, why don't you help us think about those?
In North America alone, there are up to 21 million near-death experiencers. But of those, a very small number, over 300 now, are evidenced. What if you have a near-death experience? You fall down on the ground, no one knows what's wrong. They call 911 on campus, and the people run over. And they know that happened at this time. And they know they got you straightened out 45 minutes later. But during that 45 minutes, there was a car accident on campus, and there's no windows in the room that it wouldn't make a difference. You were out cold. But let's say you later say, I saw that red car hit that green car, and I could not believe the green car did not stop at the stop line like it was supposed to, and it got plowed, and it's a good thing no one died. Well, I know when you went down, and I know when you were revived, and I can get a campus police report about when it happened and when it was taken care of. And I could potentially be correct on seeing that, but I shouldn't be watching it if I was out. And many of these near-death experiences, the evidential ones, are done with flat, no measurable brain waves or no measurable heart waves. They have that combination, like you had a cardiac arrest with ventricular fibrillation. That kind, your heart stops. 15 seconds later, on average, your brain stops. So if you're explaining something 2 minutes later, it's in a highly evidential state because theoretically your heart and brain are not working. And there are dozens in that category.
Like blind people who report things that they can see, that they, when they were in their body, they couldn't see it because they're blind. And during the operation, they're reporting like the kinds of tools that are being used and procedures, and it's just amazing stuff.
What's funny is, like you said, Mikkel, they only saw something while they were in their near-death state. They did not see before or after, and they're still blind to this day. So there's some pretty good evidence that something's going on. Now, when the guy says, I went away to heaven, blah, 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 I don't think you can put much stock in that at all because you're not going to get evidence. By the way, just for the record, 21% approximately of near-death experiences are hell cases. But I don't think any of those are trustworthy because they're out there, and I have no evidence for saying out there. How do you know you're in hell? No evidence. Okay, well, I got your testimony. Thanks for that. But no evidence. Mm-hmm. The evidential ones, though, say you're conscious. That's what they show. And you go, well, yeah, but that could be for minutes. But some of them go for hours. And there's another kind that would take you years. That would take some explaining. But it would go way past the time for soul sleepers. That's why I say it's the empirical data here in medical journals is really tough on soul sleep of any form.
Because these evidential near-death experiences are demonstrating that there is a disembodied state and that they're conscious. Is that what you're saying? That's how it presents a big problem for the soul sleepers?
Yeah. And not only did they say they were conscious, They'll say it was the most real thing that ever happened to me in my life. I am more real there than I am now back in the hospital room. And as Mikkel said, back in pain again. They wish they could go back there and stay. And many times when they're brought to, they're slapping the doctor's arms and pushing his face, and they want to stay. And the doctors are beating on their chest and bringing them back.